Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.
Reaper, first of all, can you tell us why you do this?
I do it for the kids, Johnny. For the kids.
We're back for episode 2, John.
I didn't even get to change my shirt.
Podcast that you named, John, Ballgame The Reaper. Tell them why.
Because I wanted my name first.
Oh my gosh, we're back for episode 2, John.
I didn't even get to change my shirt. Like, that's how quick this turnaround is.
I didn't even shower, dude. I was so excited. I stayed up for 2 straight nights getting content ready for tonight's show of Ballgame and The Reaper. We're back because we promised you guys we only did the draft last time, and now we're going to talk about free agency and the trades that happened in the offseason. We're that dedicated. And now I'd like you to introduce Johnny freaking Ballgame.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy to be here with you again. Excited to talk about some free agency stuff tonight. Man, I'll tell you what, our season, it's going to be fun. We're going to, again, we'll have the Sir Poops a lot and the Fantasy Rolls Royce on with us a bunch as we continue through the season. But, coming up, we're going to start going through each division, talking about the teams, and just start to break that down. But this week, Chuck and I really want to just talk about free agents. And so, excited to do that. And we think some fantasy relevant free agent talk is probably what you need right now.
Yeah. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about, the AFC East to start. And we're just going to go over the guys that really think are fantasy relevant. If you're not going to be fantasy relevant, then we don't give a crap. We're not going to talk about you, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills. And to me, they only made one move besides the draft that really I think is going to be fantasy relevant. That is they signed Curtis Samuel, John.
So pretty big contract, really, like $10 million a year.
$30 million for that guy. But they are in need of a guy to play that slot role, right? Because, they lost Gabe Davis. They lost Stephon Diggs. So guys are going to have to be in some different roles here. So what do you think about Curtis Samuel and his fantasy relevance?
I like Curtis Samuel's skill set. I always have. His biggest question of ability is availability. It's just he's never on the field. He's always injured. And so I like him. I like his signing. I actually think Mac Hollins is a pretty good signing for them. They just don't have much. And Mac Hollins can get open. He can run. Marcus Valdez-Scantling, boring. No one cares about Chase Claypool. Can't believe he's still in the league. So when you talk about all their signings, Curtis Samuel's the golden child. So, he's meh.
Yeah, he's meh. I late round flyer to me. All right. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins and talk about their main free agent acquisition, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. I'm kidding, John. OBJ is DOA, John. This guy, I don't even want to talk about him. Let's move on. Jalen Waddle. They re-signed Jalen Waddle to a huge 3-year extension worth $85 million. So that tells me 2 things. Okay. One is they plan to use Jalen Waddle a little bit more. If they think he's worth that much when they already have Tyreek Hill, that must say something. He's in their long-term plans. Dynasty people, if you have Jalen Waddle, and unfortunately I just traded him like last week, John, in Dynasty, but if you have him, you're going, oh, sweet, right?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think he's the best signing they did was re-signing people that they had, like Mostert. I think that was great re-signing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get Salvon Ahmed. To me is kind of a nothing. But Braxton Barris, who cares? River Craycraft, meh. Odell Beckham Jr., like you said, he's DOA. I love the Waddle signing, and I love the Mostert signing.
Where would you draft Jalen Waddle this year?
Oh, God, that's a good question.
Here's a better way to phrase that question. Would you want Jalen Waddle to be your wide receiver 1? Probably not.
No.
What about as
No,
your wide
but
receiver
it's 2.
two? You would
Yeah.
like that. Wide
Yeah.
receiver 3 to me is like the golden pocket.
That would be amazing if
that
you
would
could
be
get him
amazing.
as your wide receiver 3.
Because I'm telling
I
you
would-
what.
I wouldn't love him as my 2. I would like him as my 2.
Okay. I'll tell you what. Last year was not indicative of Jalen Waddle's talent. He was banged up. And they really leaned on Tyreek Hill. At some point,
Right.
they're going to have to balance that out a little bit. And Jalen Waddle is fast and he gets open. And don't forget, this guy is a rookie, caught 100 balls, John. So he's capable of putting up some big numbers. And so you could get him as your 3rd wide receiver and he'll put up wide receiver 2 type stats. There you go. That's how you do it.
I think that team, again, a track team. You got Waddle and Tyreek have been together now a couple of years. With Tua healthy, made it through a full year of healthy. He's going to get a contract here in a little bit. I think this team is dangerous. Dangerous.
Very dangerous. All right. Let's talk about the Patriots. They didn't do a lot, but they did get Jacoby Brissett, which I think is important. We'll get to that in a second. And they did sign Antonio Gibson, which is weird, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about Jacoby Brissett. You think he's going to start. I do too. Solid quarterback, doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Just does the job. And that's kind of what I think New England's going to have to do because they do lack talent, for lack of a better term.
It's going to be, to me, it's going to be just a quick hitting, almost a 49ers, old school West Coast type of offense. They're going to have to, it's a lot of slants, a lot of quick outs. I think Gibson's a good pickup from the fact that he can catch passes out of the backfield. And I think Jacoby Brissett likes to check down. So I think he's going to catch passes out of the backfield. I don't like any of the receivers they picked up much. Kendrick Bourne's boring. KJ Osborne, okay.
Yeah, not
fantasy. Okay. Yeah.
So the only thing that this does do fantasy-wise is I think it puts a hit onto Ramondre Stevenson. Because I don't think he's going to be the 3rd down back anymore. That they brought in, they brought him in for a reason,
totally
right?
Agree.
Yeah, Gibson.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And they're going to stack the box against him because there's nobody outside that scares him. So, yeah, I don't want any part of Ramondre Stevenson.
All right, let's move on to the Jets. We know, Rodgers is coming back, but insurance-wise, they did sign a good backup in Tyrod Taylor.
I like the signing of Tyrod.
I do. It's better than Wilson. I mean, let's be real. Tyrod's mobile. He can throw.
I'm better than Wilson.
You're better than Wilson. You are. I'll give you that, but not at the thing that he's known for. Okay, not at that thing.
Listen, I'm not unsure. I'm not better than that. So,
oh, okay. And this is the signing that I really like just because Aaron Rodgers needs this type of receiver, and that's Mike Williams. I mean, as long as he's healthy, big target. Go ahead.
You're pairing him with Wilson on the other side. I mean, it's not like they can double him because you got to double Wilson. So I really like that signing. If he can stay healthy, him and his coccyx.
I love that word. I don't know why.
I do too.
Because I'm a child. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my favorite signing of the entire offseason, and a guy that I was very down on last year for obvious reasons, because he was on my team. The AFC North, we're going to the Ravens. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. But I'm going to let you do it because you're a Titans fan. You watched him for years. Tell me what you think about this fit.
Yeah, I love this move. I think this is going to rejuvenate Derrick Henry. I think he's wanted to go to the Ravens for a couple of years. He gets to play with a quarterback who you can't stack the box to stop Derrick Henry because you don't know what Lamar is going to do. They've got weapons on the outside. They've got I just love this pick. They've got an offensive coordinator who wants to use Henry to close out games. He's going to get it near the goal line. I mean, even between the running backs that they had last year, those guys all ran for like 15 touchdowns. So it's not like Lamar gets all the carries anymore at the goal line because they don't want to hurt that guy. So I love the signing of Derrick Henry. I think the Ravens are an unbelievably dangerous team.
Oh, man, he fits so well. He's going to be
so perfect.
What Gus Edwards tried to be last year for them. And last year,
I don't know. Speed of Dobbins.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys realize, but Derrick Henry had the most carries in the NFL last year. Yeah. And they were kind of like trying to mix in other guys in Tennessee to try to spell him. But I'm going to tell you this right now. He may have led the NFL in carries last year, but he's going to have more carries this year than he had last year, John.
I don't know if he'll have more carries than he did last year. I think he'll have more quality carries. He's definitely going to have more yards. He's running behind a better line than he's ran behind in years.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans line wasn't great to start out with, and they were injured a lot last year. So you're playing with backups and backup of backups. So the Titans were a mess last year. Derrick Henry was still respectable. I mean, he was still probably a top 10, top 15 fantasy running back in a very down year. He's going to be rejuvenated. He's going to be excited and pumped up. Man, I love him. I love Derrick Henry this year.
All right, let's move on to the Bengals real quick, and let's talk about a few.
You did forget about one thing. The backup quarterback now is 86-year-old Josh Johnson.
That guy's still alive?
I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's incredible. He's still in the league. All right, Bengals. All right, let's talk about Zach Moss. He's replacing Joe Mixon. He did pretty well with the Colts last year, when he got the opportunity. I don't like this fit, though, John, but I'm going to let you speak to it first. Go ahead.
I don't love the fit. I don't hate it, but what it does is I really liked, and all of a sudden I can't remember his name, Brown. I liked him, right? Like if they were going to get rid of Mixon, I thought Brown was going to get that starting role because I thought he's got the skills to do it. Now I think that muddies it for both Zach Moss and for Brown. And so, are they going to use Brown as a third down back and Zach as the first, back end, or reverse it? Because both of them are kind of similarly built and with a similar skill set. So it just muddies it for me. And from a fantasy value, I don't know what I like either of those guys.
Yeah, I think Zach Moss is he's too slow, John. He's too slow. He's a plotter.
Yeah.
He fit in Indianapolis with their good offensive line. The Bengals don't have as good of an offensive line. But what it tells me is I think the Bengals are going to be more pass heavy this year. I think Joe Burrow is going to be healthy. And so I'm excited about the receivers and the quarterback.
And Burrow.
And Burrow, of course. So let's talk about T. Higgins because he's still in this dispute with the Bengals. They franchise tagged him, but he hasn't signed the tender. He's kind of playing games like he might not, he might sit out.
He's gonna play. He's gonna make $21 million to play this year.
How do I feed my family on $21 million?
Yeah. I mean, you get injured this year, you've still got $21 million to retire. Hope you can do it, Camp.
Yes, but okay. So for T. Higgins' sake, when he eventually signs his tender, this team offensively is dangerous, John. I mean, you got Chase healthy, Burrow healthy. By the way, Chase.
Go ahead.
Chase also wants a deal, so we haven't gotten around to that
and he
yet.
deserves one, and he will.
Yeah,
he'll get one. He's going to be real close to what JJ's was. I think signing of Mike Gesicki is a sneaky. Don't overlook this pick.
Damn you, John! I knew you were going to bring that up, so I highlighted it because I knew you were going to bring him up. Go ahead.
He can play. He's another weapon out of the backfield. A couple of years ago, when they had Uzama, who could run out of the backfield, got a bunch of catches, opened it up on the outside for the wide receivers outside. He kind of takes the Tyler Boyd role if Burton doesn't come in, and there's this. This team is a dangerous team, man. I love Joe Burrow this year. Love Joe Burrow.
Oh man, that just means you're gonna take him before I get him, John. Damn it.
1,000,000%. I get a chance to take Joe Burrow. I am drafting Joe Burrow.
I knew you were gonna talk about Gesicki, John. It makes me sick to my stomach. So we're gonna move on.
Does it make you Gesicki to your stomach?
It makes me Gesicki to my stomach. Yeah, good one. Let's go to the Browns. Let's talk about. I mean, I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant, but I think it's a good idea to have a backup quarterback like Jameis Winston, John. I mean, their quarterback sucks, John. He hasn't been the same since the whole massage incident, and they may need Jameis.
They may need Jameis. They also picked up Tyler Huntley. So, they picked up two quality backup quarterbacks. So, they must really believe in Deshaun. Let's talk about the only actual real addition that I think is worth noting on this team is Jerry Jeudy.
I agree. They traded for Jerry Jeudy. And that's
Yeah.
a sneaky, nice pickup for the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has underwhelmed is the best word for him.
Right.
He's been underwhelming in his career, but he's still young, John, and he's only been in the league 3 years. I mean, they got Amari Cooper on the other side, John, and if Judy starts to break out, I mean, that's two very capable wide receivers. And let's not forget about Njoku, who broke out as a tight end last year. Also, your boy there, John. Talk to me about Judy, though. Like, do you think Judy can be good still?
Yeah, Judy showed flashes. I don't think he's had great quarterback play around him. I like Jerry Judy in this offense, and I really love, like, don't forget, they got Elijah Moore, who 2 years ago was three seasons ago, was a 1,000-yard receiver. So, like, this team's got talent around it. If Deshaun Watson could just take his head out of his ass, or the masseuse's ass, whatever it needs to do, like, this team could be really good.
I agree.
Really
and
good.
I mean, when Joe Flacco is the guy that saves your season last year, Jameis Winston, he's as good as Joe Flacco, right?
Easily. Like, Jameis Winston, I actually think if was the starting quarterback on this team, we'd be going, Winston's going to be fantasy relevant again this year.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and just real quick, they also signed Deontay Foreman, and that's only relevant if Nick Chubb's knee is worse than we think. You never know because he tore multiple ligaments in his knee, so I'm rooting for him because I love Nick Chubb. I think he's very, very good. But they do have insurance.
They also signed Nyheim Hines, so they could be using him as a third down back out of the backfield. So no matter what, you're not going to have a 3-down back in this system.
I think Nyheim Hines was just there to return kicks.
Maybe.
Speaking of returning kicks, John, speaking of returning kicks, the Steelers signed Justin Fields.
He is not returning kicks, people. He's not.
That's so stupid. I mean, the fact that people even consider that is just dumb.
It's hilarious. Especially when they signed Cordero Patterson in the offseason, who, by the way, is one of the great kick returners of our time. And under this format, actually could be relevant again as a kick returner.
Right. And also they got Russell Wilson, who could be a kick returner, John. I mean, if quarterbacks are going to be kick returners.
I mean, might as well. Kyle Allen.
That's another one, yeah. But I mean, so did Pittsburgh do themselves right by getting two guys in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in separate trades? Are they better than what they had before with Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, I think they're better. I'm not sure Justin Fields will start the season as the starter, but I'm pretty sure he's going to end the season as the starter.
I'm with you on that, John.
Yeah.
That's a good take.
I do. I think they'll give Russell Wilson the every chance to be the starting quarterback because he was first. I mean, that's the only other reason I can think of. You see those two guys together. Justin Fields is a physical specimen, and Russell Wilson is there. So I think Russell Wilson's best days are behind him. I think they'll go safe for a little bit, and then they're going to go, holy crap. Like, they might start Justin Fields out in a bit of a slash role. They've been talking about that a little bit. Give him the old school slash title. But I think at some point he's going to just take off and be their starting quarterback.
Did we forget that Justin Fields went on a massive tear last year for about 6 weeks? Do we forget?
I didn't forget
that he had multiple games of 100 yards rushing and touchdowns, and the Bears won 5 of 6 games at the end of their season. Do we forget?
Yes, we did forget. The Bears fans were like, but he's kind of good. Like, do we really want to get rid of him? That was the argument all year in Chicago. I think Justin Fields is going to be a great quarterback. I think he's going to a great situation with a great coach. I love the prospect. Like, I'm thinking of drafting Justin Fields and stashing him on my bench for the first half of the year.
I mean,
even in a redraft league.
Honestly, I still have him in Dynasty, right? And I'm going to keep him because you never know how things can work out. But I'm telling you, the Steelers, that trade that they made, what did they give up? A 6th-round pick? 7th-round pick? Was
nothing.
It's nothing. And they have a chance to have a potentially good quarterback in a good system. They like to run the ball. That's what Justin Fields does really well, folks.
Yeah.
It's a great sneaky trade. I mean, come on. All right.
Yep.
Moving on to the AFC South. Now we can talk about Joe Mixon. He's on the Texans. They signed him. I actually like the fit for Joe Mixon better than with the Bengals. I like the Texans offense. I like their offensive line. I like the running scheme for Joe Mixon. I like that their quarterback he spreads the ball out. I mean, this situation can't be much better, right?
I agree. I love Mixon this year. I love Mixon. The only thing I don't like about him is, you definitely have to give up on Pierce at this point, which I think I was probably ready to do that anyway. But what scares me is that Pierce is still there, and so does it become a timeshare? So that's my biggest worry about Joe Mixon is if Pierce is right, he's a good running back too, and so now you're teaming him with Joe Mixon.
It's the scheme, though. They run that zone scheme, which evidently is not good for Pierce because he was great the year before, and then they bring in the zone scheme, and it didn't work out. But you're right. It could be a timeshare. They're not going to just give up on Dameon Pierce. He had a good year his rookie year. So that does scare me a bit. But ultimately, like Devin Singletary was the guy last year because Pierce sucked that bad. He was the worst running back in football. And so
100%. Yeah.
I mean, if I had to roll the dice, I would bet that Joe Mixon is going to get
he's going to get plenty of opportunity to win that role. Yeah.
Now, where they really strengthened themselves is in the wide receiving core there. They already had
Which was already strong.
Yeah.
It was an already strong.
Yeah, they already had Nico Collins, but they extend him for 3 more years, $72 million. And then they trade for Stephon Diggs. And, let's not forget about the guy that broke his leg and got shot and is back. Tank Dell, right?
Yeah.
So, man, do I love the prospects for CJ Stroud.
Me too, dude. I keep thinking I would really like to have him as my quarterback this year. I'd really like him on a fantasy team or two. So and then you got Ben Skoranek for a fourth receiver just for the hell of it. You got Dalton Schultz. Like, this is a stacked team in 1 year. Like last year when we were talking about teams that were going to be in the cellar, the Texans were that team. Like, nobody thought they were going to do anything. They freaking went on a tear last year. Unbelievable. Also, I'm so pumped for these guys.
I do want to point out something on this show. Last year, we were talking about the draft. And after the draft, we discussed CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. And you and I think myself as well, we were saying that we like Stroud better as a quarterback in the NFL. And we freaking nailed that. Not too many people were saying that.
Yeah.
Not too many people. So, again, if you like this content, folks, don't be afraid to hit that like button. Subscribe, because we're going to do this every week. That's all we ask. It's free. Don't cost you anything but a little bit of an effort just to hit that little thumbs up thing. Come on.
That's it. Come back and see us. Come back and see us. We want to get our viewership up to 5 or 6 this year. You know what I mean? Like,
double our output.
We want 10. I want to treat it like my friends. I got 10 really close friends. I want 10 really close fans who come see us all the time.
All right. Let's talk about the Colts. They signed Joe Flacco from Cleveland, so he is their backup quarterback.
The savior.
If Richardson gets hurt, I mean, you could do worse than Joe Flacco for sure. Michael Pittman re-signs with the team, and we already talked about their draft.
Not much else.
Right. So I like Pittman. I think he's not going to get as many balls this year because they signed A.D. Mitchell, right?
Right.
But what I really like is Jonathan Taylor this year, John, because they have the weapons on the outside to spread out the field. And Jonathan
he's a year off of the injury.
Exactly. They got rid of Moss. This is the year that Jonathan Taylor kind of revitalizes. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Is there anything else that excites you about the Colts? I mean, besides
I think it's
Jonathan
a good
Taylor?
team. I think it's a good team. I think it's a solid team. I think they could easily, if it wasn't for the Houston Texans, I think they could have easily won the division. But now with the Texans being where they are, I think they'll be second in the division, maybe make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a strong team.
I actually think they could top the Texans in the division. I like their team a lot. They have a good defense. They have a really good offensive line. Jonathan Taylor's great. Their quarterback, you already know what I said about the quarterback. I think he's going to be
I don't know that I think he's going to be better than Stroud, though. I don't know if I think that. So.
Passing wise, he's not going to be as good as Stroud. Don't get it twisted. But man, the running of the ball and his mobility is so elite, John. I love it.
I just hope he learns how to get down. I hope he learns how to take the hits. I hope he figures that piece out. The one thing that scares me a little bit about JT is I think Richardson's going to take some of the goal line carries.
Yeah.
I think that scare me a little bit there.
You know what was missing from JT last year though was those 70-yard touchdowns.
The burst.
The burst.
Yeah.
That's going to be back this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, let's move on to the Jaguars, who I think are going to be third in this division, or maybe fourth.
I think they're going to be fourth. I think
yeah.
the Titans are going to surprise some people. I don't like the Jacksonville Jaguars this year.
So they traded for Mac Jones. I don't think this is going to amount to anything. They got Dearness Johnson again, just a Jag. The only guy I think that's relevant maybe for fantasy is Gabe Davis, and honestly, Gabe Davis is he's boom or bust. Like he's 0 1 week, he gets 2 touchdowns the next, he goes back to 0 the next week. I mean, I'm not drafting that guy.
I am not either. He's frustrating as shit. So
although he does step into a role there where they it's very much needed because they did lose Zay Jones and they lost your boy. Now I'm forgetting Calvin Ridley. Yeah. So there's a role there for Gabe, but I mean I'm staying away. I'm not. I did the Gabe Davis thing 2 years in a row, and I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Titans. This is your team. I'm gonna let you speak on them. Let you talk about the guys you want to talk about. Go ahead.
All right, I think Calvin Ridley was a steal. I think you now pair him with Nuke. I don't think he was a steal. They spent a fuck ton of money for him, right? But I don't think he was a steal. They spent a lot of money for him. I think him with Nuke on the other side, and then the sneaky third receiver of Tyler Boyd, coming off of a bit of a down year, but this head coach is the Bengals offensive coordinator from last year. He'll know how to use him. I don't like Tony Pollard's addition. I think he's maybe the third down back. I think what it does is mess up Tajay Spears, who I actually thought was going to end up having a pretty good year. One of the things we're overlooking with Brian Callahan becoming the head coach is his dad, who's one of the best line coaches of all time, Mike Callahan, came over with him, and he's the line coach now for the Titans. And I think that's one of those things where people go, I don't know about this Titans team. I don't know about the quarterback. I don't know about blah, blah, blah. I would say don't overlook the Titans. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. And it all just depends on how their quarterback does. Like that kid.
Levi's.
Yeah. And he shall be Levi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But
yeah. Levis, I think Levis has enough weaponry to where he could surprise some people this year in fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm not taking him as my QB1, but you could do worse, I think.
Yeah.
All right. AFC West. Let's start with the Broncos. We already spoke to who they drafted.
Nothing to see here, folks. Keep moving.
Yeah, they really didn't sign much. I mean, they got Josh Reynolds. They added to their team, but for fantasy, I don't know. I did want to talk about one guy though, Javonte Williams. We didn't talk about who they drafted. They drafted the kid Estime, the running back. I mean, I've heard things where like the coach is not keen on Javonte, and he may be coming to an end in Denver here, and Estime might be the guy.
I think that might actually end up being the best thing that could happen to Javonte as he gets a fresh start in someplace else. And I think Estime is a really good running back. And you're right, we didn't talk about him in the rookie class, but he could end up taking that role easily.
Yeah, and I think this also could be good in the way that could light a fire into Javonte's ass. I mean,
yeah, you never know.
He was coming off a pretty severe knee injury last year as well, so we got to let him. Let's see what he could do this year.
Let's let him simmer a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the best team in this division, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back Super Bowl champs. Yeah, never heard of them. They didn't really add anyone too noteworthy except for one guy, and that's Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I was going to say, they added Hollywood Brown. Yeah. That's a pretty good addition.
Yeah, so last year, Marquise Brown was pretty bad. He was banged up. Now he comes over, great quarterback, obviously Patrick Mahomes, great coaches, the good scheme. I think he can fit right in. What do you think?
I think he's going to fit right in. I think he's going to do really well. I do. I love him in the scheme. I love that he's going to be motivated because he had a kind of a crap year last year. Just couldn't like the signing more.
Yeah, he's got that speed too. We were talking about Worthy in the draft, and how he
Yeah.
has that speed that they've been missing. You know, Marquise Brown's pretty freaking fast,
Pretty
John.
fast, pretty fast dude. Pretty fast dude. Backup quarterback wise, they signed Carson Wentz, which to me was a bit of a surprise, but okay.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz is not a leader of men, John.
He is definitely not. He is definitely not.
I mean, he's I don't even know if you can call him insurance for Patrick Mahomes because he just hasn't been relevant in what 3 years now. Yeah. They re-signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire again. I don't know how much that matters to anyone.
Yeah.
They did re-sign Travis Kelce though to an extension, an extra 2 years, which tells me they still think he's got it.
They still think he's got it, and he still showed it last year. So,
and people are sleeping on Kelce. I'm hearing 3rd, 4th round. They're drafting him right now. It's like, dude,
I like that.
Did you not see him like the second half of the year in the playoffs dominate?
He did.
Did people forget he missed week 1 with a knee injury and he played through the injury for most of the first half of the year? He was banged up. People forget that. This guy that didn't lose a step yet, folks.
And they were more worried about what he was banging than that he was banged up.
Right. We're too worried about his girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
But I'm taking him in the 3rd round, John.
1,000,000%. I
Thank
hope he's
you.
there in the 3rd round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, dear God, let that happen.
Unfortunately, me and you snipe each other, so.
No, it depends on who goes first.
All right, let's talk about the Raiders.
Do we have to?
I mean, we could do it real quick.
Gardner Minshew is the only one.
He'll be the starter, I think. I think he's going to beat out Aiden O'Connell.
I do too.
Alexander Madison, that's just a Jag.
Michael, but he steps into the starting role, possibly.
I think Zamir White's the starter. I do.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, but Madison's a good change of pace back.
Yeah, he was always a good complimentary back to Cook, so maybe he goes back to being that complimentary back.
Yeah, when there's no pressure and no expectation, he's not bad.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup also joined the team. I'm not sure he's going to be fantasy relevant. Like, you're not going to draft him, but at some point during the year, could you see picking him up on the waiver wire?
Maybe, right? Like, there's not that much competition other than Devontae. Yeah, other than Devontae Adams, he doesn't really have a ton of, competition for catches.
Yeah,
and he does manage, and he's a year removed from the surgery. Could be back a little bit, but he wasn't terribly great when he was seriously healthy. So let's just move on.
Seriously healthy instead of seriously hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Chargers. They signed J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, so they're the Ravens West.
Yeah, they just went, hey, can we just take your whole backfield? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Come on.
What do we think about Dobbins and Edwards? Like, how's that going to play out in your mind?
I think it's going to look a lot like it did with the Ravens. I think they're going to be a 1-2 punch. It depends on if one stays healthy and one doesn't, then take the one that stays healthy. They both have fantasy relevance, and I think J.K. Dobbins could be an unbelievably great back if he could just stay healthy and stay on the field. Gus Edwards, to me, is a guy that is going to get you touchdowns, very touchdown dependent. It doesn't really excite me otherwise, but J.K. Dobbins, I think, has some real potential.
Also, they have an easy out. If J.K. Dobbins isn't quite healthy, they can cut him and won't cost them much at all. So
yeah,
they're taking a flyer if he can return to form, and he's a good fit. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Harbaugh likes to run the freaking football, John.
Sure does.
All right. Yeah. They signed DJ Chark as well, it might be fantasy relevant because they're kind of lacking in wide receivers there. I mean, they got Ladd, which we like, but they let Keenan Allen go. They let Mike Williams go. Johnston's been a disappointment.
Herbert can find DJ Chark. And DJ Chark is one of those sneaky guys that gets open underneath. I think he'll fit in that system really well. So, don't overlook him.
All right. NFC East. We'll start with the Cowboys. And they did nothing. They got Ezekiel Elliott back. And that's pretty much it. They haven't even signed CeeDee Lamb yet, John. What are they doing?
Hopefully realizing that Jerry Jones is the worst general manager in all of football. That's what I hope they're doing.
Does he not know that the longer he waits, the worse it gets for that contract for CeeDee Lamb, as far as Dallas is concerned?
He's going to pay him now more than Jefferson, and Jefferson is the highest paid non-quarterback in the league.
Jefferson's getting $35 million a year, and CeeDee's going to want that.
He's not coming. he's going to want to at least match that.
Exactly.
Congratulations, Jerry. Congratulations. Way to negotiate, you dumbass.
Oh, boy.
It's
All
the
right.
same thing he did with what's his face, the quarterback.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, he's a decent free agent pickup, but I'm going to tell you, I think Rico Dowdle is going to be the starting running back.
I think so too. How sad is that?
That's pretty sad. They're really going to be a pass happy team, which means, I mean, get your CD Lamb and get your Dak, right?
Yep.
They're going to light it up.
That's
okay.
it.
Giants. I mean, they got Drew Lock, signed him on a 1-year deal, and they signed Devin Singletary, a couple of Jags. Devin Singletary, though, has been a little bit underrated. I think he's done good jobs in Buffalo.
He did a great job in Houston.
And in Houston, I mean,
Yeah.
but he's the starter by default there, and he's taking over for Barkley. I mean, he could be
He's
a
worth,
decent
I think
pickup.
he's worth a later round, mid-round flyer on him. I really do.
I mean,
I don't hate Devin Singletary.
What could you do worse as if he's your RB3?
No, he's fantastic as an RB3.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's where you draft him right now. So
Yep.
I like it. All right, let's go on to the Eagles. The Eagles didn't do a lot, but they did do one big thing. They got Saquon Barkley.
Sure did. They also strangely acquired 2 weird quarterbacks for backups, but Saquon is going to be a monster this year. And if you're not looking at him in the top 3 picks, you're not going to get him.
Oh, he's going top 3. And if he doesn't and you pass on him, you're going to regret it, because I think
You're going to regret it.
Yeah, he's going to be, I think, a top 3 running back this year, if not number 1.
It's going to be between him and CMC.
Yeah.
For the number 1 running back. I really think that.
Well, I said we were going to talk about Breece Hall. Let's just talk about Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is the number 1 running back this year. That's my take.
I think you could put those 3 guys in a box and shake them up and probably feel pretty good about getting any of the 3 of them in the top 3 picks. So
yeah, but point is, Saquon Barkley's really good, and now he's on a team with an offensive line. Although they did lose Kelsey, so we'll see how much that affects them. But I mean, if DeAndre Swift had a pretty good season last year behind that line, and Barkley's just twice the talent.
Saquon's better. He just is, and now even further removed from the injury, even stronger. Rejuvenated with a new team, got a great contract, so mentally healthy. Like, this is just every sign points to Saquon just monster year.
And just to tell you how offensive minded this team is, they re-signed both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith to big extensions, so they're both locked up. They're gonna. I like Hurts. I mean, he's got weapons, man. It's gonna be good.
I think Hurts gets back in the talk for top 5 quarterback.
All right, let's talk about the Commandos, as I like to call them. Let's talk about Marcus Mariota, John.
Do we have to?
No, we do not. We're not going to talk about it. They signed Austin Eckler.
About 2 years too late.
Yeah, I think it's over for him. I really saw a drop off last year.
Burst.
Not there. It wasn't there.
No, not like what you had before. So,
do you think he kind of takes over the 3rd down role that was vacated?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to pair him with the
Brian
kid who got
Johnson.
shot in the leg. Yeah, Brian
Robinson.
Robinson, and I think it's going to be a nice 1-2 punch. I think he goes back to being kind of a 3rd down back, kind of similar to what he did in the early years when he was there and
with Gordon
in San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Back to that.
They signed Jamison Crowder too. I just like to say his name, Jamison Crowder. Yeah, and
I like Zach Ertz. I
was going to say that. Yeah. Zach Ertz is kind of an under the radar late round flyer. I mean, who else do they have? I mean, they don't have any tight ends, so he's going to be the starter. So
yeah.
That's pretty much it for that division. Not much going on in the NFC East, but the NFC North, there was a lot going on. So let's get to the Bears. That's your team.
Bears.
Go ahead, John.
DeAndre Swift, great signing. He had a great year last year in Philly. I think they'll use him even more here in Chicago. I think he's going to have a monster year. Keenan Allen, he's just a great, solid wide receiver. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but still gets 1,000 yards. Had a little bit of a down year last year, which means going to have a good year this year because Keenan's every other year. So he'll have a really fantastic year this year, I think, paired with Moore and Rome. I think it's going to be a great year for the Bears in general. So those are the two big ones. Backup quarterback, who cares? They did sign Gerald Everett, tight end wise, but I don't know that they needed him because they've got Cole Kmet. So I don't know that he plays a lot.
It's always good to have depth, though, John, and that's what they're doing there. So I get it. It's good to see that. Like for me, it's good to see how excited you are about your team.
I know it's been a while. It is.
It kind of pumps me up just to see how pumped you are.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, dude.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite teams last year was watching the Detroit Lions, and they didn't really do much this offseason. They just kind of re-signed the guys they had. They extended Jared Goff. They signed Amon St. Brown to a big deal, which was smart. And they still have that kid, Jamison Williams, right? That everyone's waiting for that breakout. He didn't get much play in his rookie year. He didn't get much play in his second year. But supposedly this is the year they're going to unleash Jamison Williams.
Dan Campbell said he's been a monster in the offseason. So
yeah, and you can get him like late, right?
Cheap.
Very cheap. Do you want him though, John? Is he going to break out this year?
Yeah. Remember, they got rid of Josh Reynolds. I'm not sure who their second receiver is other than him. So I think he's the number 2 guy. They signed like Donovan Peoples-Jones. They've got some Jags. They've got some other guys on that team.
Yeah.
I loved Jamison Williams this year, and I hope I get him in the 6th round.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm
6th
praying
round.
for that to happen.
That's too high, but you can get him in the 6th round, John.
I'll take him in the 6th round. I think he's worth it. Man,
I believe you.
7th or 8th, maybe 8th. Yeah, you know me. I don't wait for where if I want a player, I'm gonna go get that damn player.
That's right. All right, Green Bay Packers. All right. So they go out and take Josh Jacobs away from the Raiders. But is Josh Jacobs done, John, or is he still got some juice in that tank?
He's another every other year guy, so I would like him this year. He didn't have a great year last year, but he had a great year the year before. I like him. My only issue with him is they also still have A.J. Dillon, and they're kind of similar as running backs. But obviously, Josh Jacobs has a little more burst and is a little faster. Also catches the ball out of the backfield a little bit better. So I actually really like Josh Jacobs this year.
Okay, good.
That's my take.
Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings, John. We already talked about Sam Darnold in the last episode, but they take Green Bay's Aaron Jones to replace their running back core. Yeah. I actually like Jones in this situation.
Love this pick. I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I was hoping you didn't notice him that much because I really like him on this team.
Yeah, for the price in the draft, it's a good pick because I don't know if you noticed, but Aaron Jones was a freaking beast in the playoffs last year. He still got it.
Sure did. Like down the stretch, like weeks 10 on, I thought he was a monster. So he can catch the ball, he can run hard, fits in that offensive system super well. So it really depends on who the quarterback is. No matter who the quarterback is, they're going to lean on the run in the beginning of the year. So he's really going to come out of the gates, I think, pretty stellar.
And we already talked about the Justin Jefferson signing for $35 million a year. I mean, you got to do it. He's the best receiver in football. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Love it.
Okay. On to the NFC South. We're going to kind of roll through this pretty quick. Kirk Cousins, we talked about the Achilles injury. Do we think, if Kirk Cousins is like 85-90% of what he was for the Vikings,
still fantasy relevant,
very
still
good,
going to be a good quarterback.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Got great weapons around him. There's no reason to think that this team can't be really good.
They added Darnell Mooney. I don't know if he'll be fantasy relevant, but it's just an extra deep threat.
Yeah. I think Drake, Pitts, those are your guys that are going to be the mainstays there. Mm-hmm. But they got Rondale Moore, they got Darnell Mooney, they've got people who can catch if any of those guys are hurt.
Yep.
That's the reason I like Kirk Cousins so much. There's no drop off, and he's got a little fella named Bijan that he's going to be throwing the ball to.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I shall be Bijan.
Oh, we forgot about Bijan. He might be in the top 3 as well.
Yeah. One problem is they've got Tyler Algiers too, so he doesn't get to run as much, but he'll catch a bunch of balls.
Different regime now. Let's go. All right. Panthers, we only want to talk about one guy real quick. Deontay Johnson, he was acquired in a trade with the Steelers. They needed that. They didn't have. I mean, they had old man Thielen, but they really need to put guys around Bryce. I think Deontay Johnson's a pretty good fit in Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah, I like him as like my third receiver. You know how I feel about number one receivers on bad teams. They're still number one receivers. I think there's going to be plenty of volume for him. He's a volume guy, so I like Deontay Johnson this year.
Okay. We're not going to talk about the Saints because they really didn't make any relevant fantasy football signings. So we're going to skip to the Tampa Bay Bucks. They re-signed Baker Mayfield, who had a pretty good year last year. But the coach, let's see what he can do this year. I want to know what Baker Mayfield can do this year because their quarterback coach moved on. So Mike Evans was also re-signed, but it's basically the same team. One guy I do want to talk about is a running back, John. You had him last year. Talk to me. Like, do you think that's a repeatable thing for the running back there?
For White?
Yeah, Rashad.
I love him. I thought he got better as the year went on. Strong down the stretch. They didn't change a whole bunch. They signed a couple of linemen that I think will help, shore that group up. But yeah, I don't like that they signed Chase Edmonds again. I'm not sure that he's, I just feel like he'll take a few like catches and things away from him. But for the most part, White's your only game in town. I like that they didn't really give him any competition in camp. So he's the guy.
Giddy up. All right. Last division, NFC West. The Cardinals, they signed Zay Jones. I think that's fantasy relevant just because they needed a guy to complement Marvin Harrison on the other side. And as long as he stays out of legal trouble and he's healthy, I like the fit. They didn't really do much else, though, fantasy relevant. The Rams didn't do a lot, but they re-signed Demarcus Robinson and Jimmy Garoppolo as their backup quarterback, which I think is sneaky kind of good. Like, he's a decent
backup. Kind of good.
Yeah.
Stafford gets injured. Jimmy Garoppolo can play still.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Niners now. The Niners signed Joshua Dobbs to back up their quarterback, which I think is sneaky pretty good, too.
Which means he'll be good for 2 games and then go back to the bench. So that's what he does in every place he's ever been. I don't mind their backup quarterbacks. They signed Christian McCaffrey to an extension. Let's face it, that's the smartest thing they did this year.
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, until the wheels fall off, just keep riding him. He's a beast.
100%.
And then they quietly signed Logan Thomas.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sneaky little signing right there. Do not overlook that.
Yeah, because you never know when their tight end's going to go down. He gets hurt quite a bit.
Yeah.
He stayed healthy last year, but, he's due. He's due for an injury. All right.
He's due.
He's due, yeah. Kittle, he's due. All right, Seattle. Last team on the list. They really didn't make any significant moves other than they acquired Sam Howell, who I think could end up being the starter there because
he could. I mean, Geno's still the quarterback. Geno had a good year 2 years ago. He had an okay year last year.
Yeah,
Sam Howell's a pretty good quarterback. I mean,
it's not bad.
To me, you put those two again. You put them in a box and shake them up, and you can pick any of them out. Sam is that kind of quarterback to me. He's a Geno Smith kind of quarterback. So, I'm not excited about this team, actually, at all, quite frankly.
Yeah,
There's not anybody that makes me go, whoa!
They're kind of boring, huh?
Yeah.
We did it, John. We finished. We went through the entire league, the draft, the free agents, the trades. It was a lot. We broke it up into 2 shows. I feel good about it, John. How do you feel?
Me too, man. It's really good to be back with you, Chucky. Great job as always running the show. You keep us alive and going. And man, I hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you come back and see us. Make sure you subscribe, come back, hit that like button. Tell Chuck how much you love him in the comments. We got great skits coming. We've got all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to bring the Fantasy Reaper back and
absolutely
cut some people. Like I can't wait till we do a Fantasy Reaper segment and get rid of some people that I've been to get rid of.
Yeah. And if you want to know like what the Fantasy Reaper is about, go back in our history and look at the videos. There are a few Reaper videos specifically about Tom Brady and a couple other guys. They're pretty funny. See if you like it. But I appreciate Johnny Ballgame coming on the show, dropping that knowledge. Excellent breakdowns of all the players. Good job. I appreciate you, man.
You got it, buddy. Come on back and see us at Ballgame The Reaper.
All All right, so next week we're gonna hit on some guys, and I know that sounds funny, but we're gonna talk about guys that we think are underrated in fantasy football drafts and guys that you should look at value. So that's gonna be a fun show. We're gonna each drop quite a few of those guys because I know John's got his guys that he loves.
Johnny Ballgame gut feeling. We haven't even broke out the Johnny Ballgame gut feeling yet.
Oh yeah. And we got lots of stuff coming, so hit that like button, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next week. Aloha, John.
Aloha.
Scratch you off pony with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.